Good morning. Hi, I'm Frank Messina, and this is the December 20th, 2022 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. I have some announcements to make before we start. Please note, this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing for any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Seeing none. Pursuant to Governor Baker's July 16, 2022 signing of an act relative to extending the certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, including the extension of his March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law 30A-20, until March 31st, 2023, this meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted both in person and via remote participation, and shall afford adequate alternate means of public access via Microsoft Teams by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, conference ID 765-812-397#, or by joining the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link posted in the agenda. Despite our best efforts, we will not be able to provide real-time access. We will post the record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Okay. The next order of business is the roll call. I will note that we have two regular members who are not present but calling in via Microsoft Teams. But we will proceed. Mr. Lear.
Remotely here.
Steve Burlingame.
Here.
Ben Smolazinski.
Here.
Stephanie
Remote.
Hamilton.
Here.
Jane Moffett. Jane is absent. She continues to recover. Don Aikman.
Here.
Alternate Sandy Porter. Absent. Alternate Janet Tennyson.
Here.
Present. And the chair is present, Frank Messina. So we have one regular member missing, Janet. So if you could please fill in for Jane Moffett. The procedure, just for the members of the public, is we have two alternates who will fill in for the absent members of the meeting, but alternates, even though if they're not voting, can also participate in the discussion. So our agenda is not too bad today. We have two applications, two hearings, and then we have three community preservation applications that we need to review. I see one gentleman present. Hopefully, there's Mr. Bystrom and Mr. Christina, they know about it. And then also for Ted Kingan.
Ted is participating online today.
Oh, participating online? Okay, very good. And then we have correspondence for Sarah Korjeff relative to referral to the Cape Cod Commission. I want to spend some time, and then some brief old business items on the archaeological surveys and the cemeteries. So it's pretty straightforward. So having said that, we'll get right down to business. The minutes of December 6th. Everybody has been given the minutes in your packet, have time to review it.
I move the adoption of the minutes of December 6th.
I'll second.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Okay, we'll do a quick roll call for the minutes. Mr. Lear,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Ben? Ben,
Abstain.
you're absent, you're staying, right. Stephanie?
Yes.
Jane is absent. Don?
Yes.
And Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so the minutes are passed. Thank you very much. Boy, we kill a lot of trees. Okay. The first application we have, public hearing, application 22-020, 9 Scallop Terrace. This is a partial demolition of a building more than 75 years old, which will be heard in accordance with Chapter 158. Just a quick comment, Christina, you know, when we do that and when we publish it, it says pursuant to the notice of intent to a partial demolition of an historic building. You know, that's us to decide whether it's historic or not, but that's the way we've been doing it forever?
It has. I could put potential historic building.
Yeah, it just was reading it, I mean, really reading it for the first time. So anyway, and we have Robert and Julie Napolitano. Would you please come forward? There was a site visit to the, and hopefully some of you got a chance. There were 2 of us in the cold, and hopefully the rest of you had a chance. This is a simple residence, partial demolition. There is no Form B on the property. It is not located in the Chapter 150, is in the National Register District, nor is it indicated, it's not located in the National Register District and is being heard under 158. Let me just give you a quick, what the process is. Hello, nice to meet you. The Historical Commission, our function and the site visit is we like to go and just like a rough idea, looking at the property. You know, things can happen in paper, but we actually like to take a look, in which we did. But the primary objective of the Historical Commission initially is determine whether or not the property in question is historically significant. What does that mean? Well, first of all, is it more than 75 years? It could be more than 75 years, but it doesn't make it more historically significant. In your case, your property is more than 75 years. I don't know when exactly it was built.
1950.
Say again?
1950.
1950, okay.
So was it 75 or 72, Frank? My understanding was 72.
So it just snuck in?
It's 75.
I believe the assessor's record said
Say again?
40. I believe the assessor's record said 1947.
Okay.
1947?
And you're exactly
Yeah.
75
I
years.
trust the assessor. I mean, it's been,
Okay. Yeah, well, just try to give it a little bit.
that's why we said
you know,
it's fine.
I mean, that's the first
Yeah.
thing. So if something is 75 years old, you know, that's it. Okay, now we look at it. Now, the next question is, well, does it meet the criteria of being historically significant?
Right.
Just because it's 75 years old doesn't mean it's historically significant, as most of the members on this commission are historically significant. And then some. So really, the first thing we're going to do, and it can be rather simple, we do appreciate your application, and we appreciate you coming forward and what you're planning to do. But, so what we're going to do first is we're just really going to discuss briefly amongst ourselves and with you, is this considered historically significant?
Sure.
You know, do we feel like it's worthy for us to impose a demolition delay? That's what we could do. We can't tell you no, but we could make you wait 18 months while we try to get you to not make the changes. So I guess, so the first question, very simply, is how do the members feel relative to historical significance? Janet?
Alex,
Microphone.
it's historically significant in that it's because of its age, I believe, and it's an old cottage down there on the beach. I think that that's about where it ends.
Okay. Yeah, yes, Steve.
I believe it, since it's part of a substantial cottage colony that has been there, which is probably a typical cottage colony of its day, well-maintained, still there, I think it is historically significant for that reason.
Okay.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is. That area used to be the cottage community. It's no longer that way. It's been changed greatly, so I don't think it is.
Okay.
Because it's one of the original Horn cottages, which goes back quite a while, I would find it historically significant. However,
Okay. Ben?
No comment.
No comment. This is not a judicial hearing, you know, you can't take the fifth. Mr. Lear?
Well, my
Frank,
feeling
I-
is, I don't see anything distinctive about the property, so I'd have to vote it's not historically significant,
Thank you.
except for the fact that it was part of the truth is the Horn Cottages, and I'm not sure how many of those are still standing.
Okay. Mr. Lear?
Frank, I essentially agree with Stephanie, I think, that it is a typical cottage. It's typical of the larger cottage colony. And I suppose it could qualify as historically significant as possessing architectural value or significance in terms of period in conjunction with the group of buildings or structures. But I hesitate to say this, but I think that ship has sailed long ago when somebody or other, they let them put up two-story monsters on the same size lot. It's lost its character. It's too bad, but it's somewhat simple to the cottage colony over on Hunter's Rise, if you recall that. And they
Okay.
were great. They just can't save them all, and for whatever reason, the other ones got modified extraordinarily. Maybe they're newer.
All right, thank you. I think myself, it's kind of a mixed bag. I guess I agree with Don. You know, you just blatantly not want to say, oh, this is not historically significant. And if I were to say it is historically significant, it's not necessarily historically significant in an individual cottage. It's what's happened in that community. And unfortunately, as Mr. Lear pointed out, there, you know, we have been forced to.
All right. Okay, I got it.
No, okay, I'm sorry, I just.
No, don't worry about it.
Ben, turn your microphone off. What we have historically, you know, we kind of missed the boat on this one. I mean, 30 years ago, before FEMA and everything else, when it was a colony, you know, truly a colony, it was probably something which would have deserved some kind of regional recognition as either a national register or historic area. But unfortunately, if I think of the one like the one across the street, we're kind of forced, you know, well, they had damage, it had to be lifted, and now it's, you know, 10 feet off the ground, and it doesn't really give us anything. So, you know, I would say, even if we would have voted historically significant, given the changes that the applicant is proposing, you know, I would say it does not infect the historical significance. So, yes, Steve?
I think my colleague here is, and I are in agreement. After he said he thinks it's historically significant, he said, however. And
Yeah.
I would like my comment to be the same, except use the word
However.
but. I think because it's part of a cottage colony, which is a soon to be lost art, I think we ought to consider it as significant. However,
Yes.
this particular application, and the people you can look at that picture and see the maintenance of that property. It's about as cute as it could be, maintained as well as it could be. You wish that every other cottage in the neighborhood was taken care of the same way. I guess I would make a motion that is historically significant, but not impose any kind of demolition delay.
Okay, all right. That sounds like, looks like we could do that. But,
I would second that motion.
all right, but let me hold on the motion and at least you did a lot of work here.
Don't worry about us,
No,
honestly.
no,
We're
no,
fine.
we don't want to, luckily you didn't pay an attorney a lot of money to do this. You did
So
it
I'm an
yourself.
attorney, so there's value there, right? Yeah.
Did he charge you? Okay, so why don't you just give us briefly, quickly, what you're
Yeah, let
planning
me give
to
you some
do?
context as well. So we have two properties in town. We have a
Right.
property at 291 Ridgeville Road. If you've seen that property, you can see essentially the quality of work we do, my wife and I. So we bought that as investment. We bought this property initially as investment and realized that we love this area. We're going to use this as a summer home. So our intent really is to take, and you'll see, if you go down 291 Ridgeville, it's halfway down the block, window boxes on the house.
Very
It's
historic.
really historic in a sense, right? We kept everything as much as we could. So we loved the cottage. Our neighbors don't, as you can see. Our neighbor to the left is going up, or proposing to go up in 1 year. Our neighbor in the corner is going up, or has put the application in this year. Neighbor across the street's already in process. The first house on the right is gonna put a second story on if possible. So 5 out of 6 houses will be either demolished or replaced and/or, renovated, as well as a house behind us and a house the next street over. So in effect, the colony, is to your point, has really dissipated. My wife and I, Julie and I, we love this. We don't need more than this. So the idea behind this renovation, frankly, is to just make it really livable. The work we want to do on, the roof, as you can see, is sagging. There was some work done to it. It's structurally okay, but it's heavy. So they insulated the inside of the roof. The trusses aren't so great. So we've talked to a builder about this. It's a faux chimney. They took the fireplace out. It's a gas fireplace inside now. So the idea is to take this off. It's too big. It doesn't really fit the structure. And really correct this roof with a nice wood roof, a cedar roof. Aesthetically pleasing cedar roof that's really straight, okay? And with a little bit of overhang. And we'd like to do is put a little awning on the front. The rain kills us here. So rather than put gutters on, we wanted to get an awning on here so we can at least protect the door, the entrance to the house. And then essentially, that's the front of the house. That's really all the work we want to do. On the side of the house, we've talked about potentially taking out, there's a bay window, as you'll see in the drawings. This side, there's a bay window, doesn't serve a whole lot of purpose, takes up a lot of space on the inside walls, it's a relatively small cottage. So we want to remove that, and we want to make this a double window on this side, really essentially the same side, 48-inch double window, and then make this a double door, a French door, outswing French door to allow us to walk to the back patio, rather than have to walk from the front door around the cottage. And the property line is right on the edge, so our neighbor has the fence along the line, we have a wall. So we don't want to have to walk through the gardens to get to the back, so we want to just put a door there, and then we'll have a little patio walk. This air conditioning unit will move to the middle, we'll just relocate it, position it, move the pipe straight up. It's a multi-split, mini split inside, and that's that side of the house, relatively simple. The Anderson windows, we're going to replace them with the same Anderson windows. There's 48 inches smaller than a standard 60-inch. We think it'll fit the structure very nicely. We'll redo the trim as well, so we'll put ASIC trim on to protect it against the elements. The back of the house, there's one window here in the kitchen. We want to make that a double slider. We want to give access to the back as well. So what we want to do is we're going to run that window right to the base of the cabinet on the countertop and have it slide. So you can open up the slider right to, we're going to build a small little bar off the back. So you can reach out and just, hand out food, whatever, barbecue, et cetera, right onto that. And we'll have a table right here. Shower stays, the rest of it stays, nothing else gets changed in this house. That's it.
Okay.
So we say partial demolition, there's really minimal
Right.
demolition. When we take that window out in the middle, we'll obviously fix the wall inside, and then whatever we have to do in terms of, minor electrical and stuff.
I would
That's-
ask one thing,
Yeah, surely.
because I think we have consensus. One second, Don, let me just, consensus and emotion, A, historically significant, but then what we say is historically significant, but no demolition delay, because what you're proposing does not impinge the historical significance of the property, et cetera, et cetera.
Great.
This group, myself, have this thing for chimneys.
Pro con.
If a house is brand new, there's no chimney anymore, because I'm sure you're gonna put, direct access. And so what we ask you to do, and we would ask that, that's a stone chimney, you're gonna take it down?
It's not stone, it's faux. It's not stone. It's a faux chimney.
It's a faux chimney?
It's a faux chimney, that's not a stone chimney. There's
Well,
no
then we would ask
flashing.
you to leave it as a faux chimney. Why?
Or put a shorter one
Or put a shorter
We were
one.
thinking cupola. Do you guys like cupola or not? Because we were thinking of cupola.
Sure,
As opposed
you
to
could
chimney.
do.
Is that acceptable?
Yeah. yeah.
Okay, we'll go cupola then. A
You know,
chimney-
the idea,
That was my
is that
Because
the
it doesn't
house
sit in the
is,
middle of the, so Anna's on the phone. Anna, can you hear us? My architect. Anna? I want her to comment on this.
Hi, I am here, but you keep dropping off.
Okay, Anna, can you
So-
comment on the chimney on the roof and the cupola idea and why we don't want the chimney, the faux chimney, if you may?
Well, the faux chimney is not historically accurate because it is a faux chimney.
Yes,
And originally, when the cottage was built, it should have been built a little bit differently. So I think it's
We lost you, Anna. Did you go on mute?
technology.
Are you there?
Yes, go ahead, Anna.
Yeah.
You're back on.
I keep dropping off, so sorry. So I think the roof needs something, but I think that chimney is a little bit oversized and it doesn't should have been placed more centrally to be accurate.
Yeah, well, you know, I would say relative to the historical accuracy, there's no question, you know, this is not 1700, you know, it was 1900. And, you know, why do I personally, if a house was built today, there would be no chimney, okay? What makes it look like it's at least 75, and in 25 years from now, 100 years old, well, there's a chimney. You know, it makes it look, it gives it the genre of the chimney. So do you think you could do something like that?
We can do a cupola, I think, if that's okay for you folks. We're
That'll be
happy to
fine.
do it, frankly. We've actually had it drawn in, and then Christiane talked about it, we said, we'll leave it off for now. But if that's okay, well, yes, we will. So
Okay,
that's
great.
absolutely fine with us. Mike Sullivan is our builder, he's working on the Habitat homes now. He's gonna do it, he knows style-wise, we go around town, we look at everything, so if you have a preference, tell us.
No,
We'll
no.
look, we'll pick one, we'll pick a nice aesthetically pleasing cupola, and we'll have that piped out. and
Just when you get that design, just provide a copy
I
to
will give,
Christina.
absolutely do so, you got it.
All right, Don, I interrupted you, yes.
That's all right. I have a question. If you're going to straighten your roof, aren't you going to have to take all the roof boards off?
So he doesn't know if necessarily if that's true, we have to. When Mike goes up, he said when he takes the first layer off, he's gonna look at that and see if it's, either you can correct it without having to take the entire, so we don't wanna take the roof off, that's absolutely not going to happen. So what we'll do is we'll take that layer off, we'll look at it. If it's not feasible to correct this adulation, then we'll shingle it and leave it alone. We're not gonna get a huge expense for it, and because we think it'd be a lot more attractive being straight, but we don't know yet.
And a
We don't
wood
know
roof.
what's gonna happen once we get in.
In a traditional cedar roof.
Yeah, we want traditional cedar for sure, so we want to go wood cedar. So we will try, we'll do what we can, Don. We'll look at it, and then without getting a big expense, if we can straighten out, if there's a way to do it without having to replace and pull it up, and to your point, right? We don't want to have to take this whole thing off, no, absolutely not.
Regardless, I would not impose a delay on this, but the other point I would make is that when this was built as a summer cottage in a cottage colony, it would not have had a chimney.
We're in consensus on that. They took it out, I mean, they had the chimney in there, they had the fireplace, they took it out, replaced with a gas fireplace. So that work's been done. I'm sorry, go ahead, Anna. Anna, comment?
Yes, yeah. I'm here, but I don't see anything.
Okay, do you have a comment, do you want to comment?
I think having the chimney be gone is not bad. It's not functional. It's just there. And it causes more problems than it fixes.
It's also easy to build the roof without it, frankly, the wood roof.
Right.
So, okay, we will go with a cupola. We will absolutely, we're fine with that. I'll submit the picture for you folks. And
Okay, good.
perfect, thank you.
All right, you guys want to refine that motion? Mr. Burlingame?
Refine it,
Well, what you said, historically significant, why?
because it's 75 years or older, and it is part of a historic cottage colony.
Wonderful. But
But notwithstanding,
you don't feel that,
that's a lawyer word,
We use it often, too. No, we're seeing the foregoing.
notwithstanding the
changes
finding of it being historic significant, I would propose that no demolition delay be imposed, because the efforts being made by the applicant and the proposed changes will not in any way, any significant way of making the property less historic.
close enough.
I'll second that.
Okay, sorry, Don. All right, okay, very good. Any other comments or questions? I think we have consensus. We'll do a roll call quickly. Mr. Lear,
Yes.
Steve,
I'll
Abstain?
proceed my vote with the fact that you have prepared an application that I wish everybody has done. What you're proposing to do is right in line with what we're trying to accomplish as a commission. We admire you for
Thank
your
you.
efforts to do
Thank
that.
Christina,
And I
too.
vote
Yeah.
yes.
And I thank Christine for that, by the way. Christina's wonderful helping us get here.
Christina.
By the way, I'll let you know, we've had at least 4 or 5 people that have born and raised and lived on the Cape for years come by and said thank you to us for keeping this
They've
cottage.
sent us pictures
stayed.
from like years ago, and they're thrilled that it stayed
We got a
out. Can I
letter.
come in? And it's
Yeah,
really
it's pretty funny.
fun.
But it's so,
you see why attorneys can be a pain? All I wanted was a yes and no.
I know. He's a lot like, yeah, that's why I joined this commission. I'll talk too much. And Steve, we'll have issues, Steve, right?
Paid by the word.
Ben? Benjamin, do we lose you?
I think he left, he left the chair.
Oh, dear.
Oh, boy.
All right, we're going to abstain for
Yeah, he did
Ben
leave.
for a minute. Stephanie,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Ben? Sorry? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I get it.
You did.
Bob, did I get you? Yes, I did.
By the building permit.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I assume Ben is having a technical problem or he needed a health break. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're very
We do
welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you, folks.
How did you know he was an attorney?
I admit it.
Pardon?
Do you go to West Beach?
We do. We go to Singing Beach a lot.
Oh, okay.
But we do go to West. We have the sticker.
Ben, did you vote yes on that one?
I was built.
Really? West is
Yes.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate it. Have a great holiday.
Enjoy your scooter. It was cold yesterday.
Very cool.
All right. Moving right on, that wasn't bad, half hour? Okay. Deja vu all over again. Application 22019. This is a new application to be heard on 305 Main Street in accordance with Chapter 158, a partial demolition of a home that is both under 158 and also a contributing structure in the National Register District. Just for the public's information, why are we here again? The previous application was for the owner at the time, which I believe was the Emerson Trust. And since then, the applicant has now shown proof that they now own the property. Is that correct, Mr. Riley?
That's correct. I just provided Christina with a copy of the deed.
Thank you. So, again, just for the public information, and so we all know what we're doing, which is a stretch sometimes. Since the approval for the previous owner, Sarah Korjeff, who is the principal preservation consultant to the Cape Cod Commission, in which this application could be referred to, as it is a contributing structure in the National Register District with a demolition more than 25% of the gross floor area and other issues. We asked Ms. Korjeff to provide comments. You have, and the applicant has, a revision to those comments in accordance with the revised plan, and it should be in your packet. And I guess what I'd like to do, Bill, I know you're going to present, just introduce yourself for a second. Just introduce yourself formally.
Bill Riley on behalf of Chris and Deb Houghton, the owners of 305 Main Street.
Right. To make
Frank,
things go a little quicker, I'm sorry?
Frank, it's Bob. Just before you go any further, I am still recused on this, so you note that.
I'm sorry?
I'm still
Oh, Bob
recused
Lear.
on this
Yeah,
matter.
sorry, Bob, I was going to get to that.
Okay.
Thank you. Maybe the easiest way to do this, the quickest way, Bill, is just to refer to Sarah Korjeff's memo and talk about where we are in conforming with her comments, if that's one way we could proceed. Is that okay
Yeah,
with
I
you?
think that's fine. Karen Kempton, who's the architect on the project, is present remotely. There she is.
Okay, good.
And she's going to explain the changes she made to the design as a result of Sarah Korjeff's letter.
Karen, is that a way to proceed, do you think?
Yeah, that's fine. Do you want to read the letter?
Yeah, let me find it.
I have it as well, and I can go point by point if you'd rather me do that.
I think that's a great idea.
The letter was in the is in the application?
Yeah, Frank, she's got the letter. She can go through it point by point.
Yes. All right, great. Thank you very much.
So I can't see you, but can you pull up the front elevation that was
Yeah, just tell us which one, and Christina can pull it up.
dated December 5th, the most recent front elevation, A1. So in Sarah's letter, she writes, to better preserve the scale of the historic building along the west side and rear elevations, the Historical Commission should consider asking the applicant to add architectural trim along the existing sill line. A trim board that follows the base of the original historic structure would break up the 3-story rear facade and highlight the original 2-story form on both sides where the grade is dropped. So this is not the most recent one.
I was not given, this is the application that we were given. We do not have updated.
I'm sorry.
We do not have updated plans from December. Are the ones dated?
You don't have these?
I have those. What, the ones that you have right in front of you, Frank, are they dated December?
It dated,
12/5? Is 12/5 the date, Karen?
10/18.
Yes.
We were,
12/5.
we were only given 10/18. I can run upstairs if you have a copy and scan them
Right
in.
here. Only have one set, of course.
Would you like me to scan them and get them ready? We'll just take a minute.
Okay.
Do you want me to continue and just
Well-
talk through the changes until you get them back?
Wouldn't it be better, Karen, we get the right drawing to display?
Yes,
All right,
you
so
would.
why don't we take, I was going to introduce Ryan, she's gone. Okay. We're going to take a brief 3-minute recess here. Okay, guys? So we're going to stop for 3 minutes while we update the drawings. Thank you.
Copy of the letter.
Are we back on? Because I couldn't hear anything.
Welcome back, everybody. We had a brief recess because we needed to find.
Microphone.
Turn-
Welcome back, everyone. We needed to have a brief recess in order to get the proper documentation to display on the screen, so the members of the public, as well as the members of the commission, would see the correct documentation that the applicant is presenting. So we're now reconvening. We have Mr. Riley presenting and Karen Kempton, who's the architect, who's going to be giving us a brief review of the plans and an attempt to show the consistency with Sarah Korjeff of the Cape Cod Commission on her November 28th, 2022 comments.
All right, Karen, we currently have the front elevation up on the screen.
Okay, thank you. So going back to Sarah's letter, she is asking for a architectural trim along the existing sill line that defines the base of the original historic structure and would break up the three-story facade on the rear elevation. So if you're looking at the right elevation, at the sill base, we've added a water table, which defines where the existing structure ends. And then if you go to the rear elevation, we've carried that around the rear to clarify again what Sarah's requesting as far as a horizontal trim piece. The second requirement was the most recent set of plans, that was the previous set, had several highlighted changes. I believe Frank had made those highlighted changes in his review. And the proposed false chimney, if constructed, should mimic the location of the existing chimney just to the east of the main ridge line. It should not be centered on the ridge. So again, if we go back to that front elevation, you can see that we have relocated the faux chimney, so it is not centered on the ridge, and there is a note asking it to be rebuilt in the existing location. Point 3, the distance between the threshold of the ridge line on the 10/18/22 elevations is highlighted as 19 feet. The plans dated 9/6 show 19/8. The applicant should explain the difference and confirm that no changes to the original roof line or building walls are proposed. And that is true, there are no changes. The difference in dimension is when I do my measurements, I'm doing it from the inside of the house, measuring it. And when Clark is doing his measurements for the height, he's doing it from the exterior. So we go by what David Clark has, which is the 19.
Got it.
The fourth and fifth, the applicant should also confirm that the architectural detail around the original front, a character defining feature, and the eave line adjacent to the proposed exterior chimney will be preserved. So again, there's a note on the front elevation about preserving the trim around the front door. And as well on the right-hand side, that eave line just will be interrupted by the chimney, but will remain as it is. And assuming that these questions are adequately addressed, the proposed plans would retain the key character defining features of the building and would not constitute a substantial alteration. So I think we've covered pretty much everything that she's asked for on these plans.
Thank you very, very much, Karen. Sorry to give you so much aggravation about this, but it's in a significant house, significant structure in the old village and for the community. I don't think everybody's going to be happy, but I think it's a good compromise that hopefully the folks who are buying it's a big piece of property, I guess. They're going to have multiple houses on this property, right, Bill?
There are currently 3 dwellings on it. You got the main house, then in the back, down low, there's a cottage that's going to be demolished, and we're going to build, my clients are going to build a new small cottage, and we have the existing cottage up on School Street that's going to remain unchanged.
So it's a significant investment, and God bless them. You know, we often talk about how, you know, we're lucky in Chatham. Trust me, we understand the significant financial investment to do this kind of work. But in my opinion, if you don't do it, I think Karen can attend. If you don't make significant changes sometime, it's just going to fall apart. You know, just needs to be lived in, and you know, needs to have a way to go it. So that's good. All right, I think we've hopefully covered everything. I'm going to take a straw vote here. Steve, are you comfortable with the application that we could say there's no substantial, the changes don't constitute a substantial alteration? And that we could approve it?
Yes.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Ben?
Uh-oh.
Benjamin?
Looks like Ben disappeared.
Can you tell if he's still connected? Ben? No.
He's not.
He's not connected. All right, we're going to proceed. Don, can you give a motion? The motion would be that we consider the house to be historically, or continues to be historically significant as it is contributing structure in a National Register district.
So moved.
All right, so we have a motion indicating that we continue to reassert the home as a contributing structure and historically significant in the National Register District. We're going to take a roll call on that alone. Okay? Steve?
Yes.
Ben? Stephanie?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Now the question is, now that we have that, do we feel the changes proposed do constitute or do not constitute a substantial alteration for referral to the Cape Cod Commission?
I move that the Chatham Historical Commission find that the house located at 305 Main Street is not referred to the Cape Cod Commission at this time,
Because it does not constitute a substantial alteration.
because it does not
Thank you very much.
constitute a substantial alteration.
Thank you. I think we have a consensus.
Second.
Any comments? Okay. Steve?
Yes.
Ben? Still not back. Stephanie?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Fortunately, we have one more to do, guys, which is the 158. We need to validate that we do not feel that the changes do not constitute a substantial alteration, and we infer no demolition delay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all right. So we just move that the changes do not constitute a substantial alteration, and we impose no demolition delay. Any comments? And members of the public? Nope. Okay. Steve?
Before I vote, I'd like to extend my appreciation for the work done both by Sarah Kortzeff and the applicant. They've been very responsive to those suggestions, and it's, thank you. And I vote yes.
Steph?
Yes, I'll second, though, also what was said.
Very good. Don?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Ben, you're not here, right? Again, Karen and Bill and the owners, would you let them know? We really appreciate it. We know this was a drawn-out process, but again, I gave the speech again, a very significant home, and I think hopefully we're going to make people comfortable with what's going to happen. We never make everybody happy, but we try.
No, and I appreciate the time the commission has spent assisting my clients in getting to this stage. I would like to make one comment regarding the process, since Ryan was here. I think you should change your bylaw
Okay?
so that somebody who's an agreed vendee can file the application, and as long as they take title in accordance with the contract they've signed, they don't have to come back again.
Would you
Just a
essentially
thought.
just like within 60 days or 90 days?
Well, they sign a contract, there's a contract to buy it. That has a closing date in it. So as long as they close by that date, it should be, not have to come back. That was the only,
But isn't it possible, Bill, for a contract to be voided and pull away? I mean, I have a contract, the house, I put a $50,000 deposit on, and I say, no, I don't want the house.
no, I understand that. In the first place, that's extremely rare.
Yes?
Yeah, okay, so the other thing that would make it even rarer in this circumstance is that these clients have paid significant sums of money for Karen, for Dave Clark, happy to say, for yours truly. And so the likelihood of a client in this circumstance just saying, you know what, I've changed my mind, which is what you're talking about, is unbelievably rare. In the 50 years I've been doing this, I've only had 2 or 3 people walk away, just say, I've changed my mind, and just leave their deposit on the table. But even if that did happen, you've got, the bylaw, my suggestion would be that it either has a fixed number of days to close after
Yes.
the vote, or it closes by the date set forth in the contract, which gives them their agreed vendee status.
I would agree with you, and that's what I was going to climb into. If we could put a time on it, say within 90 days. I would just comment the other way, is that this commission, myself, Don, Bob, everybody here, when we encourage members of the public to come before us before a formal application. In other words, and you call, hey, Frank, can you meet me at 3:05? I'm willing to go out and talk. Now, we have limitations relative to the open meetings law. We can't have the whole commission go take a look, but we try very hard, I think we do try very hard to have conversations with an applicant to give them a sense of where the commission is going. And most of all, key, if it's a contributing structure in a National Register District, the Office of the Cape Cod Commission and Sarah Korjeff has been more than willing, and I think Karen knows this, to consult with you and to give some sense.
Yeah, we understand that.
Yeah.
Because of the history of this project,
Yes,
the clients didn't feel comfortable paying the big money without having historical
Understand.
commission approval.
Understand.
I mean, because it had been before you twice, and the applicants, for whatever reason, they clearly weren't well represented. Actually, they had a lousy architect, but anyway, they couldn't get to where they wanted to go, and so that made my clients antsy about the possibility of going through the whole process, buying the place and then being turned down, or getting something that wasn't satisfactory to them. So, because of the particular history of this project, that's why they did it the way they wanted.
well
it.
accepted, Bill, and I agree.
Yeah.
As
No,
a
but
John
they-
Q. Public, why don't you do this for me, is come up with some wording and send it to the commission, don't charge the town, and give us some idea of what the wording would be, and we will consider it.
No, I will do that. I was really hoping Ryan would still be here, so,
Oh, right.
no, but I'd be happy to send some draft language over.
Yeah, and we will consider it. We certainly understand it.
Well,
Also
because
considering
it takes your time too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so,
Absolutely.
anyway. but
Thank you
my-
very much. Appreciate it.
My clients are very appreciative, and thank you very much.
Welcome to Chatham again. All right. Boy, that was, if you think about it, how many times we reviewed this, the previous applicant? We did it twice, so we know it. All right, sorry, folks, patient in the audience. The next item of the agenda is the new business community preservation application review. Mr. Kean, are you there?
Yes, I am, Frank.
All right,
Unfortunately,
so we
I'm
have three
sitting at home with a
applications to review. The first one is Ted Kean for the exterior renovations to the U.S. Coast Guard Boathouse. The U.S. Coast Guard Boathouse, this commission has been following it for many, many years, myself personally. So tell us a little bit about what you're reviewing. Let me just quickly, for the members of the public, what's happening here. This is an application to the Community Preservation Committee for funds, which are Community Preservation Act funds for historical preservation. And the way the town of Chatham operates is the Community Preservation Committee asks and/or requires that the applicants who are requesting historical preservation funds go before the Historical Commission, this group, for a review relative to the historical significance of the property and some sense of whether or not these is a good use of historic preservation funds. So again, we don't say yay or nay on the application. That is the Community Preservation Committee and then the town meeting act. I'm sorry, Ted, go ahead.
Nope, that was a good intro, Frank. So I think basically the whole commission is well familiar with what this structure is. It's the previous Stage Harbor Coast Guard boathouse that was set on Morris Island, Stage Island, for many years. I believe it was constructed initially in the mid-30s. And then it was removed by Jay Cashman, stored in Quincy for a number of years. Then it was relocated to Hull, Massachusetts, and then as the town developed its, desires to renovate the 90 Bridge Street parcel with a primary goal of establishing a new shellfish upwelling facility, the, kind of very appropriate, or not appropriate, but desirable coincidence that this footprint of the Coast Guard structure was essentially identical to what our purpose-built building was to be designed. So there was a local private effort to purchase the boathouse. It was moved back to Quincy, where it is now in storage, and is slated to come back to this location at 90 Bridge once we let a contract ultimately and have a foundation, which is a peer-supported system with a concrete pad that the building would literally be picked up and placed upon. The CPA application is simply for the exterior treatments to try to get it back to its original livery as shown in this picture. This is a very kind of iconic design that's was their standard back in the day throughout the nation, frankly. Very similar to one that's sitting in Nantucket, where they very much went through a very similar process, where they repurposed their building into a similar upweller, shellfish upweller and nursery. So we have applied, as I said, to the CPC for funding for roof, siding, painting, windows, doors, basically to try to get this building back to its original livery in a historically correct manner. I actually went before the CPC yesterday for the first introduction to the project. I can't, predict how they will respond, but it was, I believe, well received as an important asset to the town. So that's really a very general overview, and I'm happy to answer specific questions as best I can.
Okay. Any members of the commission have any comments? Let me just quickly, just aside, I think it was last year, or maybe the year before, we had the boathouse before us by Dave Doherty, who I guess technically is the owner, or the current owner, of the boathouse when we picked it up from Chatham and moved it up to Quincy to save it. God, it's got to be 10 years ago, getting old. Anyway, so, and those funds were in order to button up the house, to the structure, to stop it from further deterioration. I don't believe this is the end of this, if I'm correct. You're only asking funds for the interior, excuse me, the exterior. And
That's
at some
correct.
particular point, the interior of the boathouse has to be modified in order to accept the upwell. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that's something that
Through the
may-
CPC, yeah,
So-
through the CPC, we're simply looking for the exterior treatments, within the historical category. So the interior renovations would be presumably through other appropriations.
Got it. Okay. Steph, can you comment anything about last night, the meeting?
I take the fifth. No, we haven't, we've taken our presentations, we haven't.
Right, we had a presentation, but
We
no,
haven't
you
considered-
haven't voted yet?
No.
Okay, all right, that I understand. I just wondered if you had anything to add relative
I
to
just
the
hope that,
presentation.
that people realize that we've had over $3 million asked from us, and we have 1.5 million, so there are going to be a lot of disappointed people.
Got it? Well, let's just hope it's the people who are disappointed are not asking for community, historical preservation funds. Okay. Janet, any comments?
Have we decided, did we make I'm fairly new here, so did we make a determination that this is historic? Have we voted on this already?
Very good. We have actually twice before voted that this was historically significant. The first time, I believe, was when it was being moved, when it was about
Okay.
to be picked up and moved.
Oh, I see.
And at that particular time, it wasn't 75. It was 65 years or something. It wasn't 65 years. But the Historical Commission then, I think Don and I were still here, and we voted that although it wasn't 75 years at the time, because of its contributions to the community, blah, 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 everything else, it was historically significant. We then again, a second time, reaffirmed that when Mr. Doherty came to ask for funds. But it is not inappropriate for us just to reaffirm the historical significance. You got to remember, something could be historically significant and it changes.
Yeah.
It burned down or something happened, so.
Yeah, because it'll make a difference on what I have to say. So is this historically significant? We've determined that.
Yes.
Okay, so if it's historically significant, then, and they're applying for funds for new windows and doors and roofing, isn't it possible to save and use some of the original portions as we've requested other entities that have appeared before us to, like some of the doors and windows and, we just went through this on, 127th Stage Harbor, but I want them to use the old stuff.
Ted, can you help us there?
I guess I'm reluctant to agree that we would try to, preserve, say, the windows, because I do not believe that they are sound sufficiently to do so. The exterior treatment will absolutely try to recreate the original livery. The interior components, the structural frame, is essentially, in good condition. So that main structure will be preserved. But the windows, the siding, the trim, all of that frankly does need to be replaced because it is, worse for wear in all honesty. So, we will strive, where appropriate, but I'm just reluctant to, make any promises at this stage.
So do we need to send this to the Cape Cod Commission, or can we handle this ourselves?
No, it's that the Cape Cod Commission really doesn't have any authority on that. What I would say, Janet, being you brought it up, and remember, this is the town of Chatham at this particular point, asking for money to restore, the exterior of this. At some particular point, when the actual work is going to be done, we certainly could ask the town to come back before us. I don't think it's inappropriate for the town, and Don, help me here, for a town structure that is historically significant to come back to us when they're going to make significant changes.
I don't believe they're going to make significant changes to this building. They're going to restore it to its original condition, and preserving it in that way is, in my mind, similar to what they've done with the Railroad Museum and other facilities that are in the town. And I hope I live long enough to see this accomplished.
We only started about 20 years ago, Don.
Yeah.
Yes,
Jan, I think what we're doing now, I believe, is just forming a letter to send to CPC saying that we approve of the changes. We're not,
we don't approve the actual
Right.
work.
Oh, we don't approve the
We don't
actual
approve it.
work, yeah.
We approve the fact that what we believe they're asking for is okay and appropriate for restoration of an historically significant building.
And the town's going to kick in too?
Well, at some particular point, they're going to be kicking in big bucks.
CPC funds are town funds. I mean,
Yeah.
that come out of our taxes.
No, I understand, but we have a town budget too. We have,
Yes, well, this, in addition
this
to,
isn't going to cover everything.
oh, no, that's correct. In addition to CPC,
Yeah.
the town itself is going to be spending a lot of money with the upweller and everything else.
And do we have to vote on that like a town meeting?
No.
It's covered. Oh,
I think Ted, did the town meeting already vote on the funds for the upweller?
Well, indirectly, if you will, it's included in the omnibus waterfront bond bill.
Got it.
So there is funding there. We are pursuing, as I indicated last night, for additional grants. So, funding would be derived presumably from a various sources. And CPC for the exterior of the building itself seemed very appropriate as well. So that's why we were pursuing that source.
I see. Well, I'd rather have the boat, but we got the
No,
boathouse.
I'm going to sound like a broken record, is that there are significant historical preservation funds available for historically significant buildings through Mass Historic. And I don't think the town has pursued any of it. I know they're suddenly thinking about it because, in fact, yesterday at 1 o'clock, there was a seminar on various grants, but I've been sending it to Terry, but I'll send some of them to you. I get them because they send them to us for the Historical Commission, and they say, do you have any historically significant buildings in which, you're interested in a match, a 50% match? So there are some other potentially grant applications, and given the historical significance of that particular property and that building, I think, you might have a chance of getting some other funding, but anyway,
Yeah.
that's another comment.
It's a good idea, yeah.
Thank you. Steve? I'm sorry, go ahead. Don, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we approve this application.
I'll second it.
Good. Any other comments? Members of the public? All right, I think we're okay. We need a roll call. And bottom line here is we're allowing the chairman to reaffirm the historical significance of the property and improve this application to the CPC. Okay, Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Ben? Still missing in action. Steph?
Yes, Ben was here a minute ago.
Don?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much, Ted. We'll talk to you.
My pleasure. Right on. Take care.
Okay, the next application is Cemetery, Chatham Cemetery Commission Restoration for Local Cemeteries, Mr. Bystrom, and I see, in addition to Mr. Bystrom? Come on up. Mr., introduce yourselves.
Good morning. My name is David Whitcomb. I'm the chairman of the Cemetery Commission. Mr. Bystrom tried to up me, I guess, and present this to you, but he's right here, along with our administrator, Dee Schippelhout, to answer any questions you might have. We are here to ask your support for our CPC application, and I've given you all a copy of that application that I think they passed out earlier this morning when there was the break in the action here. So basically, we started a cemetery restoration plan, and this is part of our first effort. We're asking for 35 some odd thousand dollars to repair 107 stones, which is in Section A of the Seaside Cemetery, which if you turn on Kroll Road, you'll look up to the right, and that's Section A. It's the oldest part of the Seaside Cemetery, which at one point in time had been owned by the Methodist Church. They turned it over to the town of Chatham in 1861, and we've been in charge of taking care of it ever since. So the only other thing that I would just tell you off bat is there, historically, the other piece of information I gave you, which says the scanned record covered page, talks about the historical relevance of this. This particular hard copy was put on digitally by the State Historical Commission. And if you go to the second page, it talks about the narrative, and it gives you a little bit more information about the history of this particular cemetery. So I think it certainly qualifies for the historical preservation application that we have, and so.
Do we have any slides? Do we have any slides that show how the condition of these? Because that was presented to us.
Yes, and it's so lengthy that I gave a copy to the chairman, Mr. Messina, and it gives.
Oh, is this it?
Yes, and it shows all 107 stones, what's going to be done to each one of them, and the cost of each one. So if you want to keep that, I'm sorry that we didn't get it to you sooner, but.
Yeah, you don't have it electronically.
And we do not have it electronically, but if that's something we need to do, we can try to do that.
Well, okay, I'm going to pass this around. Was this presented to the CPC? So the CPC has copies of the,
We have a copy of the application, but we don't all have the pictures. They were presented to us
Yeah,
at our meeting.
we gave them the same thing that you have in your hand, Frank, but not individually because of,
all right, I'm just passing, I'm
length
just
of the paper.
zipping through them. But let me just ask some general questions, and then maybe we can put it away.
Okay.
First of all, this commission, in the form of Mr. Burlingame, has been extremely interested in documenting the history of the cemeteries in town. Yes, the town of Chatham, many years ago, I forget when, did the so-called Form Es, I guess they're called, right? Yeah, of the cemeteries, and it was back in 1991, which is a long time ago, okay? And we have been working with the town of Chatham, and I think I had this conversation with Mr. Bystrom, with the town in order to obtain funding. We can't get that funding from CPC anymore because they will not fund research any longer. I won't go into that because I'll get my blood pressure up, okay?
don't do that.
For years, CPC used to do that, and we did a lot of great work. So now we have to find funding from the town of Chatham. And I'm in the process of working with Katie Donovan, the Director of Community Development, in order to obtain those fundings. What's the purpose of the funding? These Form Es were done by the members of the commission. I'm an electrical engineer, okay? That's about the beginning and the end of my preservation. And they did have a preservation consultant work with them. But the town of Chatham now has an archaeologist who has worked with us, who does a lot of work with cemeteries. So what we're hoping to do, just for your information, in the future, what we're hoping to do is to do an in-depth, detailed historical review of the cemeteries, not just the seaside, all of them. It'll probably take another year or two to have that, but I think I'm looking up, and you're the administrator of the cemeteries? Yes, I am. Yeah, thank you. Because- And I think it would be great. Did everybody look at it? Yeah. I think it would be wonderful for the town to have that. And anyway, just that's information. But now, so my second question is, why did you pick Seaside?
Well, we picked Seaside, again, because it's one of the older cemeteries. This section is one of the older parts of town, and it's very evident from Kroll Road when people drive by it.
Okay.
So, and because of the concentration of the 107 stones that need rehabilitation, we pick this area. We have been to the CPC in 2018 where we received 15,000 some odd dollars to repair 16 headstones.
exactly.
But those were kind of spread out through all the 4 major cemeteries. So
Okay.
this way we're, as part of our restoration plan, we're concentrating on Seaside Cemetery and we're working our way back. Part of the restoration plan, other than the historical part, is the trimming of trees, which you, if you go by there, you can see now that we've
Right.
trimmed a lot of trees and we're removing a lot of the large bushes that have overgrown the monuments and things like that. So there's really a coordinated effort to improve our cemeteries, and we're starting with Seaside.
Okay. Who's going to do the actual work?
Well, and just to follow up on what you were saying, Mr. Chairman, last year, it's our job as cemetery commissions to go to the board, the select board, and tell them what our needs are, and for them to put those into the budget. So last year, we asked for 3, before we had contracted out all the labor for the cemeteries, the mowing, and what little tree work we could get done from them. So we asked for 3 town employees to do the mowing from now on and the tree work. And so we are sharing those 3 employees with the Park and Rec because we're, the 2 departments are really
Oh, that's
together.
good.
So that's how we're getting a lot of the work done now. And I think it's going to be, it benefits the town because it's a lot more cost productive, I think, than subbing out all the work that we did. So in addition to the 3 extra members, we now have a 50% person who we're sharing with Terry Whalen in the Community Development Department, who is working on the historical. Our records in the cemetery are dismal, to say the least. And going back, we don't know who's where. So we now have 50% of this position to do exactly kind of what you're saying. We're going through each cemetery, each plot, and trying to really know who's there and get that digitally on a website so that when people go in, they can look and say, where's Frank Messina, or where he's gonna be, and be able to tell, where those plots are. So that we have funding for that. It hasn't really started yet, but that's part of the IT department and this half-time position that we have. So we hope that during the next year, we're gonna see some development there.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
But I think it's something, Steve, that, we hope that we could work together, and augment each other so we don't, and that's great. By the way, when are you going to get to Bethany Cemetery? Because that's where I'm going to be.
The South Chatham Cemetery?
Yeah, South Chatham.
Well,
yeah.
we've done some trimming in there, and
Okay.
and actually,
My complaint is the plot used to be 400, then it was 800.
yeah. No.
Anyway.
Well, inflation, Frank.
Inflation.
I'm sure you guys are getting almost as much as you got last year when you were on the commission.
So, but the actual, I understand the mowing and the cleaning and the
Yep.
trees,
Yep.
but the actual work on the stones themselves, is it going to be a restoration specialist or what?
Good question. Well, John Fougier, I don't know if any of you are
Yes.
familiar with him, but he has been he's dug the graves and everything for as long as I've been on the commission, and he has gone into cemetery headstone restoration as well as selling the headstones, and that's a very valuable thing for the Cape and Chatham in particular. So he's the one that gave us the estimates on all the monuments that you'll see there, and he also said that it'll have to go out to bid because anything over $10,000 needs to go out to bid. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of bidders because there just aren't a lot of people on the Cape doing that, and that's why we had to wait almost 4 years for the 16 stones that were approved in 2018 because of COVID, one thing, but just Tom Blute just didn't have the manpower to do it. So we're really encouraged that if we do get the funding, that we'll be able to do this within a year, is what we've been told, the fiscal year. So if we get the money in July or whatever,
Well, that sounds great.
go through
What
it.
I'd like to do also is get you the information on the archaeologist whose name just is Craig Cordier. Craig is the archaeologist who did the Nickerson Family Association dig, the actual dig. He also did the Atwood dig. And he works with us and will be working with Steve, when we do the so-called formies, when we take these 1991 forms
Yeah.
and upgrade it. So he's a very good resource. I mean, and he's got good credentials, and he's somebody that, that we hope to be working with. Because, there's history and there's history, okay? And sometimes you really need an archaeologist to go back and really find out, what was going on at a particular time. So I will make sure I get that to you. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve, yes, I just saw your head.
Just a couple of comments. First of all, I think it would be unanimous amongst the commission to express our appreciation for what you guys have done in the last couple of years regarding the look of the cemeteries in town.
Thank you.
It needed effort. You've made the effort. The accomplishment is substantial, and I certainly applaud your effort to go further. One thing that I have always had for a long time, I've had my eyes on in terms of the restoration of Seaside is the railings, around some of the plots.
Yes,
I'm thinking of the Knowles plot and the Dill plot behind it.
yes,
Those are historically very significant.
yes.
They're obviously in tough shape. And I don't know the cost of replication of what a foundry would charge to redo some of those railings, but I see that's not in your application. I dug through it quickly to say, what?
Yeah.
Rats.
Well, I know you've been very interested in the
Not-
cemetery, and
not-
I have an answer for you.
Not there, but I hope that it doesn't get lost between the cracks somewhere, and that is such a substantial part of the Seaside Cemetery. It's what the public sees. It's certainly part of the history of Chatham, even almost as if it's a structure. And it's so obvious. I'd like to see it get on the list sometime.
You are absolutely correct, and we did have $9,000 in a town funding in our account, and we've contracted with John Fugier to do just as what you've talked about. Those two fences are so bad that we've taken them out, and what we've decided, the commission decided to do was to restore instead of going all around the plots, to restore the front of them, including the gates, so that you'll see those, but we don't have the funding to do the rest of them. So we're going to be able to use the material that's already there and reuse it into creating the front of those two particular plots you spoke of.
I think the casting is not all that difficult. You have the blueprint, you have the fence. And I guess what they do is they'll make an impression in sand and pour it and replace those parts. I'd really like to see that happen, the entire structure as opposed to just the front. Front is a great start.
Yeah, it's a start, and
I
again, in funding it,
I
as you can.
appreciate your effort, and anything I can do on behalf or with the commission to move the funding along to finish that would be something I'd be more than pleased to do.
Yeah, the commission is very, knows how interested you are, so
Well,
you'd be
this
the
is-
first guy we'd come.
This is an
come
area
looking for.
where we're getting back to the funding issue and why I want to do this with this archaeologist, because once you do the Form Es with an archaeologist, okay, it gives a certain level of credibility to the historical significance archaeologically of that particular cemetery or particular gravestones. And then it also allows you to proceed, as I just gave the lecture to Ted Keehan, to Mass Historic for funding. And there's millions of dollars every year being put out by the state, by Mass Historic, for historic preservation. And trust me, there are other towns which are a lot more active than we are. I mean, and they do get funding. You can get the funding. Those funds are generally matching funds, which, okay, but at least it's 50% of what you're doing. So it's something in the future that, we could work with. And that's I'm just making an excuse for myself, why I'm asking the town to allow me to hire this damn archaeologist so we can get those forms done and find a way to proceed. So anyway, it's great.
Well, we would be very supportive of your
Oh, yeah,
effort to do
absolutely.
that.
I think that would be good.
I think one thing about we get the Form Es done, that you get the archaeologist to look specifically at the Dill lot and the Knowles lot. Those people obviously had some social or economic significance to the town of Chatham. Otherwise, they wouldn't have built such an ornate
Yes.
place for their rest. And I think once we learn more about Mr. Knowles or Mr. Dill or their families and what they meant to the town of Chatham, I think that would give us more ammunition when we make some applications. And I'd be glad to get some cost estimates and see what we can do about it.
That'd be great.
Yes, Steph?
I'd like to make a motion
Sure, go.
that we send a letter to CPC recommending that they grant this wish.
Okay. Don, were you gonna? Okay, so I think we have a motion and a second to proceed. Any other comments? All right, we'll do a roll call, if I can find my sheet. Mr. Lear?
Yes, sir.
Ben? I think we lost Ben. Stephanie?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
Steve,
I also vote yes.
Sorry. Steve?
And thank the commission very much for your support on this. effort.
Thank you, and I appreciate we work together. Thank you. Great. All right, last but not least, Mr. Devine. Come on up. Unfortunately, you were the first guy here and you're the last guy on the agenda. So what we have here is, again, not again, but another application from the VFW. And we have in the past, I think it's in your package, correct? The previous letters, which I can't find. And I just wanted
I
to,
Don't
yeah,
see.
that's it. Okay, I'm gonna steal yours. So you've been before us once before and CPC, so why don't you just give us a little background, what this is different from the other ones? Excuse me, sorry, sorry. Do you need these back? Yes. Yes.
Do you need a copy? Would you like a copy?
No, that's okay, I think we're good. Steve, do you need copies of this? No. We'll just kill a tree. Nice meeting you, thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Don Devine. I'm the treasurer of the Brown James Bucks Memorial Association, better known as the Chatham VFW. But I applied for funds before, as you mentioned, and I think I made a mistake because I was following the guidelines for the Department of the Interior that indicated that you could apply for funds inside and outside the building. And we had problems with our air conditioning system, and I applied for funding and I was denied because it was inside the building and was taking care of the 2 other buildings that we have over there. So this application we're seeking funds for is for the original building at 150 George Ryder Road. The building was built in 1805. It is the oldest VFW building in the world. And the windows have to be replaced. We want to make it handicap accessible. We will do the work on the inside, but we need help on the outside. I received a letter from our insurance company, said they're going to question whether or not they're going to renew our policy based on the condition of the windows and the frames around the windows. So we really need to do the outside of the building, and our insurance policy is very high, and we don't want to lose the building. As I said before, this is the oldest VFW building in the world. And we believe that we can do the work on the inside, but we have to get assistance on the outside of the building. A few years ago, we did put a new roof on the building, and we put roofs on all of the buildings that we have there. But this year, I was told if I applied for work on the outside, it might be considered, and that's why I am applying for work on the outside of the building.
Okay. Well, okay, let me just adjust the old hearing aids. I'll tell you, getting old is not good. But, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead, sure.
Mr. Devine, would you explain to me what is the historic portion of the front of that building? I've been by it a number of times, I've been in it a few times, and you've got the main entrance, which goes down the stairs to the area, common area, and then there's a building alongside of that. Is that the historic building, or is it the original?
The historic building is 150 George Ryder Road. It's the building that you pass every day when you drive down the street. They have buildings in the back, but the building in the front is the original Brown James Buck Memorial Building.
But the main entrance is not part of the historic building?
No.
What?
The main entrance
We have,
is not part of the historic building?
there is a main entrance at the historic building, but all of the functions take place in the other part of the building. So they drive down the driveway and they go into the handicap accessible areas, and they avoid the historic building. You don't have to go into the historic building. We want to make that a memorial building so students, visitors, and residents can enjoy it. We have a men's room and a ladies' room in there.
Thank you.
But they're not handicap accessible. In the 1990s, all buildings had to become handicap accessible.
I'm still not understanding what is the historic building?
Don?
The building in front, when you drive down George Ryder Road, the building that the first building you see is the historic building.
Excuse me, Don. If you look at the,
I've seen that.
yeah,
I'm
and
trying-
that's at the corner, but that's not the main entrance. You go to the left of that, down below, that's the entrance to the,
But you have to go in the front door and then down the stairs. That's part of the building.
yes, but that's
And
not
then-
the historic part,
The historic part is to the right.
to the right.
Is that correct?
The historic part is if you go out and you see the building,
There you go,
that's the historic part right there.
right there.
That's the front of the building. And when people go into the
You're good.
function hall, they go down the driveway and there are entrances to the other buildings in the back. But that building right there dates back to 1805.
So this is the door that you're talking about
Yes.
making,
Exactly.
okay. Now I understand. Thank you.
And we went through this once before, and there's a letter in your packet in 2019, in which we, I guess we agreed, because we had gotten a lot of material from the Historical Society relative to the Deacon John Hoare's house, was historically significant. So in 2019, there was an agreement that the documentation provides evidence that the Deacon John Hoare's house is historically significant circa 1800. Unfortunately, at the time, we said the consensus of the commission was that the funds requested on the application are for maintenance of the non-historic portions, which is what he referred to. And now, this time, what you're saying is you're only asking for funds for the historic portion of it.
There. Yes.
Okay? Now, we're back to the same question. I'm sure somebody's going to say, well,
I'm going to make a motion that the property is historic, and that we support the application to be submitted to CPC.
I will second that.
okay, so we've got a motion and a second to support it, and let me send a letter off. Any other comments or questions? Janet? Don? Bob?
I'm still a little confused about the historic aspect. However, given my position as chair of the Town Committee for People with Disabilities, I'm all in favor of the ADA access.
What, I'm sorry, what did he say? I missed that.
He's chair of the Town Disabilities.
I'm all in favor of the
chair of
ADA
what?
access.
Town Disabilities Committee, so. it's all
Oh,
in favor.
got it, sorry.
Yeah, for it.
I need new hearing aids.
He's all in favor of it.
Okay, thank you very much. And I agree with you, the whole concept of making something more ADA compliant, as I look at my cane over here, I agree.
Yeah, you have one
Okay,
here
so we
also.
seem to have a motion and a second relative to approving approving the chairman to write a letter to approve the application, similar to what we did in 2019, with no stipulations relative to maintenance, and that's fine. So we'll take a roll call. Mr. Lear?
Yes,
Steve?
Yes.
Ben? Still absent. Stephanie?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry to drag you through it, but
Oh,
we've got to go through the process. And Christina's going to remind me to write those 3 letters. Thank you very much. Where did you get the picture? Did you have it in the file, or you just?
Google Earth or Google Maps. I just went
you
on the
You
internet.
Googled it? You guys are too much. Great. I'm saying, we really need a picture.
Yeah.
All right.
okay.
Unfortunately, it's 12 o'clock again. John, things go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. There's just 2 pieces of correspondence. I wanted to talk about the process for mandatory referral, but I don't know about you, it's late, and we're going to skip it this time. We'll put it on the next agenda. But having said that, just to clarify things, on 2 things, 75 Main Street, which I forget what we did. We denied that application and referred it to the Cape Cod Commission. Since then, the applicant has formally withdrawn its application from the town and from the Cape Cod Commission. And the applicant is working with Sarah Korjeff, the Cape Cod Commission, to try and find some way to make it more acceptable to the Cape Cod Commission and also to hopefully to us too. We have the say, it's not the Cape Cod Commission, but we certainly use it for guidance. So anyway, that's where we are with 75. At some future time, next year, we'll probably get 75 Main Street back to us for a new application. What we have to do, as Mr. Aikman, another consigliere that we have, pointed out to me, that our rules and regulations put a 2-year limitation on resubmitting of an application unless there are significant changes. I'm going to maintain, hopefully when the applicant is submitted, it's not going to be the same application. It'll be different. And then at that time, we can make a motion whether or not we want to accept it and move forward with the application. That acceptable? Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay, the second thing is 127 Stage Harbor Road. If you notice in our minutes, which I find, Mr. Aikman made a motion. I can't find the minutes now, I got it all mixed up. Thank you, you're really too good for me, kid. Made a motion that, on 127, and his motion was that
hey,
he imposed a 60-day demolition delay so the preservationists could visit the property and give the commission some insight into the possible historical significance and then revisit the decision at a future meeting. That meeting took place yesterday. with a preservationist, his name escapes me, but he is preparing a report which we will receive, the Historical Commission will receive hopefully early part of next year, January, it's holidays are coming up. And then at that particular time, we will rehear 127 Main Street. And I've asked Christina to re-advertise it again, just to be sure. We probably don't need to re-advertise it, but because we didn't formally continue it, I think we should do that. So we're gonna re-advertise 127, let the applicant know, because they're gonna get a copy. It's Mr. Riley and Karen Kempton. They're gonna get a copy of the report, and then we will reconsider, because what we never did in the previous application, we never made a motion relative to whether or not that property was historically significant or not. We just made a motion to delay it. So anyway, just so everybody's on the same page. Yes, Mr. Aikman?
There's also a letter that came in after we heard
Yes.
this that I think should be certainly considered and part of the new the new hearing.
Yes, and everybody should have a copy of that memorandum, December 1st, from Edward Warren and David Preston. So these are people who live at 115 and 117. Guess what? They sent it to the Chatham Historical Commission, but the wrong Chatham. There's a lot of Chathams. And so anyway, yes, Steve.
I appreciate that letter, but I read it 2 or 3 times, and it really does not object to the demolition. It really says, we'd just like to know some other things, like, is the demolition going to affect our hedge or our fence and that sort of thing? I think it's really calling out for some communication between whoever is doing the site work, et cetera, working with these people. Nowhere did they say, we object to the demolition. It was just to be, we would like to know what the demolition is going to be like, and we don't want our properties messed with. I think
Let's not
that's
debate
exactly
it.
what it said.
Don's point is, there was a piece of correspondence from a neighbor, and it was never made part of the testimony. Don, I'm sorry.
That's all right, but they do point out that there's some historic trees that are there
Right.
that I think need to be considered.
Exactly. No, that's part of our streetscape. You gotta remember, folks, we deal in the property itself, but also streetscape. Okay, we don't say save that tree, but I agree with you for mostly, Steve, because a lot of that email was more to the zoning board of adjustment, not to us. Now, that particular person, so we know, actually was at the site visit yesterday with the applicant, so we'll see. So there's a lot more happening. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to make a decision. We're going to review it.
I think that it's good that there's some communication. People are pointing out and we don't know there's any objection to any of the comments made, so good to see what plays out.
Okay. Okay, it is late, so quite honestly, there's nothing more to say at this point. Christina, what I would ask you to do one more time is put on the future agenda the issue of a mandatory referral, that second paragraph in new business. And I think we disposed of the Sarah 127 and the withdrawal of the 75 Main Street. So I think we're up to snuff. The last thing that's important is Christina gave us a list of the proposed meetings for next year. Is everybody around January 3rd? I would like to have a meeting to do what we didn't do the last 3 times, okay? It'll be short and sweet. We don't have any hearings?
No,
Okay, you're gonna be here January 3rd?
I will.
Okay, so we're gonna, we'll have a meeting January 3rd. We'll have cookies, no, okay. So we'll celebrate the New Year's. Yeah. It'll be a late Christmas holiday observation. But anyway, take a look at it, and if you have any planned vacations, let us know so we can do some planning. Last thing, and I think I could say this publicly, it's potentially that we're gonna have at least 2 or 3, excuse me, Steve, 2 or 3 vacancies, possible, Sandy, I convinced her to stay on another year. I think she might be thinking she's not going to stay. Jane is continuing to have health problems. Ben has got some other issues, so it's possible we're going to have some, need some new members of the commission. So please, keep your feelers out. It's the best way.
Did you hear the gentleman in the first, he said he's interested in it?
Which one? The attorney?
Yes, the attorney.
Napoleon, do they live in town?
I don't think
They
they
have
live in
two
town.
houses, I don't know how often they're
No,
here.
they don't live full time.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, motion for
Motion
adjournment?
to adjourn.
Second.
Any other questions? Comments? Mr. Lear?
He's
Yes.
gone. Oh, he's still there.
Steve?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
Merry Christmas to all.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays.